Let the aperture adjust. We are here. We do our thing. I like to make him giggle sometimes.
Yeah,
I am still highly caffeinated, and it is late for me, and so you can always tell. I make weird noises at the beginning of the video. I do something, spastic.
Sound like Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, you're right. I kind of did. Whoops. Okay. Anyways, we'll find a way. Anyways, banter aside, what we're gonna hit on here is a question that we felt like flowed very appropriately from the first three. And this one is, when was your first performance? When was the first time you remember being put on the spot with your art? Mine is extremely vivid. There is a lot of layers to it that are interesting and fun to relive and think about. So I'm a young lad. I got my Fender guitar. I was, kind of self-taught, but then my mom was like, I want to get you a teacher. So I went to the local music store, and then I, get lessons from a very nice man named Doug. I'm still social media friends with him. He knows who he is. He knows he knows the business. He knows who he is. Yeah, I get what you mean. There's that joke. But wait a minute. He doesn't know who he is and we don't know where we are. Anyways, so I have my Fender, I'm going through this, and there's a recital. So at the local music thing, what they did every year was for the young students, they'd have you have a recital, and you'd invite all your buddies or your family or whatever, and they'd come see you play. And he goes, what are you into? And I go, well, I picked this up recently, and it was a tab book of a bunch of random rock groups. And one of the ones that stuck out to him, again, remember, I was always behind a generation of my musical taste, was Alice in Chains. Probably responsible for forming me as a musician in ways that I will never be able to fully comprehend. They were a huge part of my sound and style and the way that I approach songwriting, so that if you guys help me get internet famous, we also have to make sure that I get to meet Jerry Cantrell. So, that's just been my goal this whole time. Yes. I desperately want to meet Jerry Cantrell to have a conversation about him with some of his art and how it affected me. Fantastic songwriter, a musician. Nothing against the rest of the guys in Alice in Chains, but Jerry is, you can tell he's the guy really putting a lot of that content out there for them, and man, he's just left a mark on my musical soul. So anyways, this was the first time that I began to appreciate Alice in Chains and Jerry Cantrell's musicianship. And my guitar teacher is like, why don't we learn the opening talk box riff to Man in a Box, their very famous K-sheet riff, and that's like meow, 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 right? So we learned that, and he played the rhythm guitar part, and I learned that. Man, I played it, and I played it, and I played it, and I was like confident, right? I'm like, yeah. And then we walk into like it's a local VFW or something like that, and I'll never forget like how confident I was. And then all of a sudden when I'm in there, I'm like, oh no. And the girl that I'm kind of into as a young man showed up with her mom. I didn't actually think she was going to be there. And I'm like, oh good, she's not going to be here. I invited her, and then they come in and I'm like, oh no, this is getting worse. And I went up there and I just remember all of a sudden it was like the room disappeared around me, and I was like, I just have to nail this part. And then the spirit of the claw came and took me over, and I nailed it. And I nailed it note for note. I was into it. I've been a person that ever since then I feel very similarly. I get stage fright, but really not too bad. I get really scared right before I get up there, and then, that's the definition of stage fright, right? But it never keeps me from performing.
Right.
And then as soon as the lights come on, as soon as it's time to hit, it's like, boom, I go into showmanship mode, and all of that stuff just gets burned off. All that dross just gets burned off in the fires, and then only the gold shining. Well, at least I think it is. And, only the gold shining through. And then that was the first taste of that I had, and I nailed it, and I loved it. And, my little girlfriend at the time thought it was cool, and her mom actually thought it was neat and everything like that. And my mom was very proud of me. Oh yeah, that's neat. And then my mom thought I was proud of me, and everything. I think my dad had to work that day, so I played it for him like later that night or something. But man, I'd never forget that. It was very fun. It was my first taste of performing, and from there it just continued. But so that's my story of the first time I was put on the spot. Now, you had mentioned to me before we started rolling, you had some like art camps and stuff like that. But your moment, you said, kind of happens a little further in the future.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's still very appropriate to talk about because, hey, this just because it happened a little bit later in your timeline doesn't make it any less or any more.
Right.
What was it?
So obviously for me, the big thing was like showing people my artwork and growing up, showing like family and friends and stuff, and they were always really positive. But whenever I went to college and actually like you're working on a drawing, a big drawing, and you're in there with people who are also really good, and then you hang something up on the wall and everybody like goes back and sits down and does the typical art, you know, like
how am I gonna hurt this guy's feelings?
Yeah, I'm really gonna cut to the quick here, you know. Like that moment where you're like, that felt like literally being like, hey, here's my heart, you know, and it was just like blocks. But that moment, I remember that being the first moment where I was like, oh man, like I put that up there with the intent of getting what they call critiqued. Like that wasn't something that I made and people were just like, oh, that's really good. You know, that was something that people were made like, okay, this is good, but this isn't. And like, you forgot this and you need to do this and, you know, technique here, you know, wherever. And so it was literally just day one drawing class. Doing that was the first time that I felt like I presented.
Day one?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So like day one, literally, it was funny. This is how it worked. The professor set something up in the middle of the class, had everybody start working on it, and then was like, "All right, stop." And then he was like, "Everybody's wrong." And we were like, "Okay," and looked at our stuff, and he's like, "Everyone's drawing wrong." So because I had drawn for so long like this, he's like, "You're supposed to draw like this on an easel," because I'm drawing on an easel, not, you know, our kitchen table anymore. And so then he taught us the proper way, the proper technique, and then let us draw because drawing classes are like almost 3 hours. It's not like a class that you go in and you're there for less than an hour and then you leave. A drawing class is considered like a hands-on like work, like
it's more like a vocational.
Yeah, so you're in there for a while. And so like we did that for like 20 minutes and he's like, all right, stop, everybody's wrong, this is how you do it. And he told us for about 10 minutes, like, this is how it's done. And then we worked again, and then at the end of the class, put everything up there, and now you're like, okay, how did I do it? That was the first time that I remember. And the thing is that was when I started like presenting with people who I felt like were my peers. Before, there was nobody around me that also drew. It was me, and then like occasionally I'd run across people that would be younger than me or something. Like, I draw too. What do you like to draw? And you talk about it. But that was the first time that I had been in a room of artists and been like, here's my art. What did you do? And then like seen theirs, and then everybody be like, ooh, I like his better, you know, or, you know, that's not really what goes on. But at the same time, kind of is. So that was drawing class. That was the first time that I got butterflies really hardcore over something I had drawn.
Now let me ask you this: was it a thing where it's who goes first? Was it voluntary, or did the teacher pick, or did you go in alphabetical order, or was who was done first? How do they do that?
So basically, they have in the front of this drawing room. It was like not a glamorous room. It's literally concrete floors. It looks like, you know, they built the building, put drywall up, and they're like, all right, we'll see you guys later.
Good enough.
Yeah, it seals out the rain.
It's not like they're slaughtering pigs in here or nothing.
Yeah, but so anyway, the front of the class is just one giant like nook board. And so everybody, you've got this 22 by 30 sheet of paper, and everybody at once can fit all their drawings up there. You know, some people have to go like top row, bottom row, and like you go all the way down. But for the most part, like it was everybody. He's like, okay, everybody stop, go pin your stuff up. And
so the time's up. Everybody goes pins their stuff. Yep. And so he just went down the line.
Literally I think there was maybe 18 people in that class. All 18 drawings were up there, and you're just going through. And that was also part of the nerve-wracking part, is like, not everybody knew which one was mine. So people are just like speaking out like, that one's bad. And you know, it's like they don't know it's yours, so there's a certain confidence for some people that comes with anonymity, and they can like really trash you, so you're extra scared because then after somebody just like curb stomps what you've done, you have to be like, that was mine.
Yeah. Well, I can tell that guy really likes Spider-Man and has never done it any justice. He'd be like, how can you tell that's not even Spider-Man?
Yeah.
I get you.
Thank you.
So now, I had mentioned that I felt like I crushed it, and the reaction of the people in my life was that I did. How did yours go in that? Not to put you on the spot on that, but how did you feel like, or what ended up happening?
Initially, it wasn't good and it wasn't bad, which is what took it curbed a lot of the nerves for me, is it was constructive, which I thought was interesting. I was expecting to get, and don't get me wrong, in a lot of intro level classes, people cry. Like, people that are not used to that. There was one time where this girl worked on something, like didn't get any sleep, put it on the wall. People were like, this is so bad. And she just cried, and I felt so bad for her. And she's very talented and has done better things, but that project was not very good. But anyways, as I went through the class and more drawings got up, it was a confidence builder to me, because people started, then you start, since you're with peers, you do something good, and so then the next time something comes up, somebody will literally walk up to you while you're drawing, like, hey, can you come help me with this real quick? And you're like, okay. They're like, I just noticed that you're really good at this, and I want to know how you do it. And people start doing that kind of stuff, and it's a completely different kind of environment, where it's not like presenting, because obviously at the end of certain project parameters, you have that moment where you're like, this is the finished piece. But that, like, it wasn't like one big moment for me so much as like pushing through a bunch of small moments and getting more comfortable with showing what I'm doing and showing what I'm working and being able to like tell people what I'm doing. And so it really formulated in me like this idea of not necessarily being like stuck to, like, what I'm making is not my baby. And so whenever I present it to people, it's not like I'm like, if you don't like this, I'll cry.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Part of me will never be the same.
Yeah. Part of me will never be the same if you don't like it.
Yeah, but no big deal or anything.
So for me, performing wasn't I thought the stakes were really high, but because of the way that they first came up, I just kind of, it didn't make me nervous anymore. So
after that, it was done.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Well, appreciate that. I'm glad I got that insight on that. And man, tell you what, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun talking about things that we did and being able to share it with you. And so there we are. I hope you enjoyed this. Next time, we're just going to keep this train running, keep talking about who we are, opening our hearts up and our souls up, giving you a little window into who we are as artists and creatives. And hopefully you can draw some inspiration. If anything else, at least you can laugh at us or with us. I've lived long enough now to where I don't care. And what I mean is that I have no feelings left. My mother took them from me. This is getting weird.
It's getting so dark.
I gotta say bye.